Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to Reading 365. I'm going to be your host today. My name is Madison Stokes, and I'm joined here with Miss Susan Landau, and she's going to be reading two books for you today, so we're getting quite a treat. And a little bit of information, she is from Philadelphia. She reads to her grandchildren, and her children are all grown up, so she has all of those children books there at her home. And her favorite children's book is James and the Giant Jam Sandwich. And so she read that earlier in the fall. And so if you want to go back and watch that, that is up as well. So Miss Sue, if you can take it away, it is all yours. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I have a really nice book to read to you. It's called Even for a Mouse, Story and Pictures by Liesl Wheel. Title page. It will tell you the title of the book, which is Even for a Mouse, and the author. And we know that that's Story and Pictures, both of them, by Liesl Wheel. Another picture. Okay. Here are the people who are in this book. This is Mrs. Ollie Mouse and her darling daughter, little Ollie. This is Mr. A.H. Cat. A.H. stands for always hungry. Think about it for a minute. What do you think the cat would like to eat? They live in one house, but not together. Every day, Mrs. Mouse gives little Ollie lessons. An exercise lesson? That's right. How smart you are. A cooking lesson? Very good. How smart you are. And a foreign language lesson. And little Ollie says, "Pooh, who needs it?" A foreign language is most helpful in life, Mrs. Mouse likes to say. Mrs. Mouse loves little Ollie. Mr. A.H. Cat loves little Ollie too. For his own personal reasons, of course. Here's his list of a menu. It says fried mouse cutlets, mouse fritters, mouse chop suey, and other mouse dishes that Mr. A.H. Cat would like to make. He liked little Ollie so much for his own personal reasons. One morning, Mrs. Mouse had to go shopping. "Now stay home and practice your lessons," she said to little Ollie. "Don't open the door to anyone while I'm away." As soon as Mrs. Mouse left the house, Mr. Cat ran up to the door. "Knock, knock, knock. It's the mailman," he called. "I have a big package for you. Open the door." "I'm busy doing my exercises," little Ollie said. "Come back when my mama is here." "All right," said the cat, but he did not really mean it. He was at the door again. "You have won a big prize on a TV show. Open the door," he said, "and here it is." "I'm busy frying corn fritters," little Ollie said. "Come back when my mama is here." And she would not open the door. Little Ollie opened her little Ollie opened her foreign language book, but she did not feel like studying. I'll never use a foreign language anyhow, she thought. Why don't I climb up that hill and pick some flowers instead? So that's what she did. Only the hill wasn't really a hill. It was Mr. Cat. In a wink, he caught little Ollie. Tra la la, oh what a delight to have tender mouse stew for dinner tonight. The cat sang and sang. Little Ollie was scared, but she said, oh, missed a page. I went up, back again, didn't miss a page. Little Ollie was scared, but she said, you'll enjoy your dinner more if you exercise first. Really? Said the cat. Oh, yes, said little Ollie. I'll show you some exercises my mama taught me. First, you swing your legs up and down like this. Then bend your knees and count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. Little Ollie began to run. She ran very fast. But not quite fast enough. Caught you, sang the cat. I am the winner. And now for some mouse stew. It's almost time for dinner. Little Ollie was more scared than ever, but she said, I know a way to make your stew taste twice as nice. Really? Said the cat. Oh, yes, said little Ollie. Let me show you the recipe my mama taught me. But first, we must pick some bay leaves and mustard seeds. Little Ollie began to run. She ran very fast. There she is running fast. But not quite fast enough. Recipe or not, you're going right into the pot, said the cat, and he started for his kitchen. Help, help, cried little Ollie. But nobody heard her. Oh my, she thought, what will I do now? Suddenly she remembered something. She took a deep breath and then, bow, wow, wow. Bow, wow, wow, she barked in a great big voice. Help! A dog! Cried Mr. Cat. And in a jiffy, he was up a tree. Little Ollie didn't lose a second. She ran and didn't stop until she was safe inside her house. Mr. Cat up the tree, little Ollie in her house. She was still out of breath when Mrs. Mouse came home. I see you've been exercising. Mrs. Mouse said, did you practice your language lesson too? Oh, yes, said little Ollie. Yes, I will show you. Bow, wow, wow. Very good, said her mama. A foreign language is most helpful in life. Oh, yes, said little Ollie, even for a mouse. And at the end, they show you little Ollie reading her book. and Mr. Cat eating cat chow out of a can. The end.
Fantastic job, Miss Sue. That was such a cute book, and that little Ollie was a trickster, but we will talk about that a little later after your second book. So, what is your second book that you have for us today? Scuffy the Tugboat. Awesome. Take it away. It's all yours.
Right at the beginning of this book, we're going to learn a new word, something that maybe you heard before and maybe you didn't, and we can talk about it later if you want to. This book is called Scuffy the Tugboat, and His Adventures Down the River by Gertrude Crampton, illustrated by Tibor Gergely. Scuffy was sad. Scuffy was cross. Scuffy sniffed his blue smokestack. A toy store is no place for a red-painted tugboat, said Scuffy, and he sniffed his blue smokestack again. I was meant for bigger things. Perhaps you would not be cross if you went sailing, said the man with the polka dot tie, who owned the shop. So one night, he took Scuffy home to his little boy. He filled the bathtub with water. There we go. Sail, little tugboat, said the little boy. I won't sail in a bathtub, said Scuffy. A tub is no place for a red-painted tugboat. I was meant for bigger things. The next day, the man with the polka dot tie and his little boy carried Scuffy to a laughing brook that started high in the hills. Sail, little tugboat, said the man with the polka dot tie. Scuffy floated on the ruffle of the brook and saw above him the smiling faces of the man with the polka dot tie and his little boy. There we go. It was spring, and the brook was full to the brim with its water, and the water moved in a hurry, as all things move in a hurry when it is spring. Scuffy was in a hurry too. Come back, little tugboat, come back, cried the little boy as the hurrying, brimful brook carried Scuffy downstream. Not I, tooted Scuffy, toot-toot, not I. This is the life for me. All that day, Scuffy sailed along with the brook, past the meadows filled with cowslips, past the women washing clothes on the bank, past the little woods filled with violets. Cows came to the brook to drink. They stood in the cool water, and it was fun to sail around between their legs and bump softly into their noses. It was fun to see them drink, but when a brown and white cow almost drank Scuffy instead of the brook's cool water, Scuffy was frightened. That was not fun, and there was no rest, for it was spring, and the brook moved in a hurry, as all things move in a hurry when it is spring. Night came, and with it the moon. There was nothing to see but the quiet trees. This is nice, thought Scuffy. I like night. Suddenly an owl called out, hoot, hoot. Toot, toot, cried the frightened tugboat, and he wished he could see the smiling face of the man with the polka dot tie. When morning came and the sun danced on the brook again, Scuffy was cross instead of frightened. A brook is no place for a red-painted tugboat, said Scuffy. I was meant for bigger things. Around a bend and past a small woods the brook ran, and there was another brook, Oh, said Scuffy, what happens now? Which way do I want to go? But there was only one way to go, and that was with the running water where the two brooks met. He was proud when he sailed past villages. People build villages at the edge of my river, said Scuffy, and he straightened his blue smokestack. Once Scuffy's river joined a small one jammed with logs. Here were men and women in heavy jackets and great boots, walking about on the floating logs. They were trying to pry them free. Toot, toot, let me through, demanded Scuffy. But the men and women paid no attention to him. They pushed the logs apart so they would drift with the river toward the sawmill in town. Scuffy bumped along with the logs. Ouch, he cried as two logs bumped together. This is a fine river, said Scuffy, but it's very busy and very big for me. He was proud when he sailed under the bridges. My river is so wide and so deep that people must build bridges to cross it. The river moved through big towns now instead of villages, and the bridges over it were very wide, wide enough so that many cars and trucks and streetcars could cross all at once. The river got deeper and deeper. Scuffy did not have to tuck up his bottom. The river moved faster and faster. I feel like a train instead of a tugboat, said Scuffy, and he hurried along. He was proud when he passed the old sawmill with its water wheel. But high in the hills and mountains, the winter snow melted. Water filled the brooks and rushed from there into the small rivers. Faster and faster it flowed to the great river where Scuffy sailed. There is too much water in this river, said Scuffy, as he pitched and tossed on the waves. Soon it will splash over the top, and what a flood there will be. Soon great armies of men and women and children came to save the fields and towns from the rushing water. They filled bags with sand and put them at the edge of the river. They're making higher banks for the river, Scuffy shouted, to hold the water back. The water rose higher and higher. The men and women and children built the sandbags higher and higher. Higher went the river, higher went the sandbags. At last the water rose no more. The flood water rushed onto the sea, and Scuffy raced along with the flood. The people and the fields and towns were safe once again. On went the river to the sea. At last Scuffy sailed into a big city. Here the river widened, and all about were docks and wharves. Oh, it was a busy place and a noisy place. The cranes groaned as they swung the cargoes into great ships. The porters shouted as they carried suitcases and boxes on board. Horses stamped and truck motors roared. Streetcars clanged and people shouted. Scuffy said, toot toot, but nobody noticed. Whistles blew. Policemen's whistles, train whistles, deep whistles from the great ships as the gangplanks were pulled in, and just beyond lay the sea. Oh, oh, cried Scuffy when he saw the sea. There is no end to the sea. I wish I could find the man with the polka dot tie and his little boy. There is no end to the sea. Just as the little red painted tugboat sailed past the last piece of land, a hand reached out and picked him up. And there was the man with the polka dot tie with his little boy beside him. Scuffy is home now with the man with the polka dot tie and his little boy. Scuffy sails from one end of the bathtub to the other. This is the place for a red painted tugboat, says Scuffy, and this is the life for me. The end.
Fantastic job, Miss Sue. Thank you so much. That was a very great book, and I love to hear all the adventures that little Scuffy went on in that book. It was a treat. So I want to go back to your first book, and little Ollie, she was a little bit of a trickster, if I understand correctly. She was really trying to emphasize, or the lesson that I learned from that book is that helping others and treat people like how you want to be treated. Because the cat was going to eat little Ollie, but then she was still able to help the cat, and still get away from being eaten. So why do you think treating people like you would how you would want to be treated is such an important topic that we need to discuss with our children?
Well, I think because easy enough, I think because we want our children to grow up to be nice people.
Right. Yeah, perfectly said. And I know your second.
Responsible, kind. I mean, we could go on with lots of various words to describe what we want to say, but basically it comes under the heading of nice.
Right, perfectly said. Yeah, that's so true. And that also ties in with your second book, and when Scuffy was feeling sad. And so the little boy and the father were able to help Scuffy. And so imagine if they wouldn't have helped Scuffy and he wouldn't have gone on those amazing adventures that he was on. And he, again, at the end of the book, was led back to the little boy and the father. And so that kind of ties in with the theme of helping others and just the overall theme of being nice to people. So again, both of your books have great themes in them. And so I think overall, why do you think that incorporating these topics in children's stories are so important?
Well, I didn't jot down what I wanted to say, but I had an answer for you. You were talking about, oh, I know. It's that when there is someone who loves you or someone who is in charge of getting the best thing for you that they can, say, for example, your teacher at school, or your scout leader, your brownie scout leader, or the nice lady who lives at 2806. These are people who want the best for you. And sometimes Scuffy hadn't made the right decisions for himself based on the great wide world that he really didn't know anything about. He lived in a toy shop, so he didn't know what there was, and he was meant for bigger things, for bigger things. Well, guess what? He got bigger things, and that wasn't right. The man with the polka dot tie figured it out a long time ago, and Scuffy finally learned too.
Right. Perfectly said. And I think both of these themes are just so important to teach to our children. And I really think that these can also be tied in with the holiday season. And so as you can see, I love the get in the Christmas spirit, and I just really love the overall feeling of the Christmas season. And so I know you mentioned that you celebrate Christmas. So what is one thing that you look forward to in the holiday season?
Something that I came across last year that I saved for this year, and it's not got a very much of a tradition because it's only the first year that I'm doing this, but it's called a reverse advent calendar. So instead of getting a gift on December 1st, December 2nd, December 3rd, The idea is that you put into a box some, there's a list that is given to you, and you put into a box every day. You give a small gift to a food bank.
Wow.
And so one day you put in macaroni and cheese, another day you put in a can of carrots, another day you put in a box of cereal, things like that. And then you'd be surprised how much there is and how heavy it is by the time you get to December 24th.
Wow, that is fantastic. I am definitely going to have to do that next year and incorporate that in my Christmas traditions. So thank you so
Mhm.
much for sharing that. I do. So you also mentioned that you read to your grandchildren, and I think that is so important. And so I just wanted to get, how are you reading to them now? Are you doing it over Zoom or on a call, or just in this new time, how are you maneuvering around that?
I'm not. I'm not reading to them. And my first batch of grandchildren, as a matter of fact, I just looked at my oldest grandchild's senior portraits. Um, Lovely, of course, because my granddaughter is lovely, but that's because her grandmother thinks so. Um, uh, but I mean, I certainly wouldn't read to her. Um, and that family of grandchildren is has outgrown me, has outgrown being read to. And then I have another set of grandchildren, and um, my granddaughter there can read, probably read to herself whatever she chooses to read, but she likes to be read to. And my, oh, and those two children, they live in Oregon, so I don't see them very often, but they are members of the Pennsylvania Book Club, which
Okay,
means that there is no selection of which do you want the way there would be in a true book club. But once a month, they get a book in the mail.
fantastic.
And when I get there, I'll read them. I mean, they're free to read them now too. I mean, they can open the books and look at them. The books are for them, but
Yeah.
I will look at them and read them when I get there.
Yeah. So I'm sure you have many memories from when they were super little and you would read to them. So that's
Mhm.
fantastic. What was their favorite book that you read to them? Do you remember, or any favorite stories that they liked or characters?
Yeah, well, depending on what they liked when they were 2 or 3, or one of those children is 9 and one of them is 6. And this is what my granddaughter liked the best.
Okay.
This,
Okay, The Little Engine That Could. What a
mhm,
classic. Yes.
yes, that's the one that she liked best when she was the littlest. And my son, who is her father, thinks that it's funny, that what she learned from the reading that I do is that when I say The Little Engine That Could by Waddy Piper, she learned to say The Little Engine That Could by Waddy Piper. I always include the author and the illustrator.
Okay.
Okay, when I'm saying it, we're going to read every word that's here, and we're not going to read every word on the title page, and we're not going to. There are some people I read every word with, but they're adults. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's fantastic. I'm sure you had great memories. And, my sister and my sister is 12 and I'm 16. And every single night, as much as we can, my dad reads to us. And still to this day. And so we have so many great memories of chapter books and classics that we love to read. And it's really important, and it grows your vocabulary and it teaches you new lessons like how your books did today. So I think that is fantastic. So thank you so much, Miss Sue, for joining me today. I had a fantastic time with you and hearing your stories and hearing about your grandchildren. And I wish you happy holidays, everyone. For everyone that is watching, tune in tomorrow every single day at 11 a.m. And have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, Madison. Thank you. Happy Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.